I really like to be engaged with you all when I present, because sometimes when you're speaking about, particularly like in the mental health realm and things, it's a lot like you're processing at the same time. It's not like I'm just sharing, which AI, when I take an AI class, it's AI, I need to take an AI class, but hello, welcome. When it's psychology or mental health or whatever it is, it just, I feel like you're in just a different space psychologically, and you're kind of processing, and I don't know, you may have things that are aha moments and things that you think about. Just briefly, a little bit about me. Entrepreneur most of my life. I don't remember not being an entrepreneur even when I was a little kid. I was a strange little kid, I think. My family wondered where I came from, and I thought very differently than everyone else. And I think that's challenging when you're growing up, because there's just this, like, I feel like there's a lot of pressure, just the normalcy. But anyway, I found my way and launched my first company by the time I was 18. And I ran a lot of little businesses when I was 13, and I amassed $20,000 and put the money down in my first company. And I'll tell you why I'm sharing this, but my dad was in road construction, and we had a history of mental illness and things in my family. And even back then, it was really misunderstood. We didn't really know. So I lived around that and observed behavior, and always as a child, always wonder, like, why do people behave like they do, and what's going on? Even like my own thoughts, why am I so different? Why do I think so different than others? And why am I always processing things really fast? And I could read, a book in just very little time. And so, this lifetime of that translated into the need to really understand myself, not based on what other people say and share. And so I went back to college and took a psychology class. I took multiple classes, and I fell in love with it. It was like that ultimate aha moment where it's uncensored and you get to really understand yourself without other people feeding anything into that. Like, and I was, you're ADHD and you're hyper and you're this. I mean, you end this life with just multiple labels. But those people that are labeling you and talking about it don't know. They're as misinformed as you are. And so it really led me, I had a crisis in my life, and ended with just my 3 girls as a single mom. And I really thought, gosh, I need to understand like why I am the way I am, and what can I do to best benefit my kids and my life. And so I actually scored really high on these tests, and I ended up going down to Berkeley, and Berkeley conducted just some studies. It was kind of interesting. And I found out that I have something called high intellectual capacity. And so I'm not diagnosed with anything. I'm a neurodivergent for sure. I didn't even know that term existed. I don't know if you're all familiar with neurodivergency. Came about in 1996 with Judith Singer, but it was such an epiphany for me to understand that I really wasn't anything but myself, but I just don't think typically, I don't think in a binary form. I'm a divergent thinker, and I was very different. And so that was just very empowering. In my brain, if you're not familiar with high intellectual capacity, I have an ability to process a ton of information really quickly. I'm terrible at math. So I have something called dyscalculia, which is a math. So my brain functions entirely different. But out of that, I learned that even then, I just kind of kept that, to myself, because there's a lot of stigmas with mental health. But what I came up with was that I feel like we're built, like, life is built kind of to put us in cubicles. Some of us aren't built to be in a cubicle, and I'm certainly not. Mm-hmm. And so I had this epiphany one day, and I thought, I'm just wired differently. Like, it's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I completed all my education, sold off all my business, and restarted, and went back to college and got my degree, my PsyD in clinical psychology. Because once I started, and I hope today it helps you, or maybe you start this whole new journey, or just exploration into yourself. But it was glorious. I mean, the schoolwork wasn't, and the testing, it was not that much fun. I'm not gonna lie. But the reading and the material was it was phenomenal. But in that same thread, I really learned to understand that it's okay to be different. But more so, how do I discover my superpowers? And with the name Dr. Freeze, it fits really well. I even have students, I still teach psychology classes I have for like 15, 20 years. But they will, every once in a while, one of my creative students will, create a superhero. I have a really fun one right now. It's hilarious. And, it really makes me think about how many people are out there unaware of all these things that maybe they have. Maybe they view it as negatively, or maybe they live in this space where they kind of keep it tempered down. And I don't want people to feel like that. And I certainly don't with the classes that I teach. And around the entrepreneurial space, understanding like how you function and how your brain works is super empowering for if you want to do something. Because again, like when we live with those spaces, there may be things that we have, as we shared about our unconscious, there's things in our unconscious space that maybe we want to do when we were a child. Like even if you think about right now in this space, like what were the things that you dreamed of doing when you were, 8, 9, and even 12 and 13? And then what happened to those, things that we felt and the things that we love. Like, I don't know about you, but I still love to swing. That was like my jam. I don't know why. I still swing. I still have swings in my property. And those are those things that are the good stuff that maybe we forget about. So part of my brain and why I use my notes is to keep my brain where it will function. So I do use them because otherwise I'll be off in the weeds and you'll be like, Kim, come back, gently, come back. But a lot of us, I don't feel like we're made for rules that don't make sense. So even sitting still, like if you need to stretch, do something, smiling on command, trying to act normal, just to keep a job or fit in. I just don't think that we should adhere to that. We're built differently, we're all differently, we're wired differently in a way that maybe the world doesn't understand. But do they need to understand? No, probably not. But we think, all right, I need to be this norm and behave a certain way. And then where others see chaos, for me, people saw chaos, they saw anxiety, they saw distraction. For me, it was intensity, focus, and creativity. It's how I'm creative. I just go like crazy, and I ID, and I just design and do things. And other people are like, oh, you're too hyper, you need to calm down, you need to sit down. But it didn't work. But I realized that I wasted a lot of this beautiful energy worrying about what other people thought. That was exhausting. And so I would tamp it down and adhere to what other people thought I should do or how I should be. And it was really freedom. It was really amazing when I thought, I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't apologize anymore. This is what you get. And so when you live in that space, it's just really amazing. Anything is possible. And I'll give you more information about neurodivergence and what it is, and I'll bring it all together so that you have something that you get to take home. But anyway, I spent most of my life being called too much, and then sometimes not enough. Too sensitive, too driven, too chaotic, not focused, not patient, not stable. These are all like kind of labels that I live with. And then there was just like these diagnoses. Do you have anxiety? Do you have depression? Do you have ADHD? And we all know what happens with that. Big Pharma steps in, and next thing you know, you walk away with a bag full of 13, medication. We actually did a research project where we all went out and we portrayed like we had certain things going on with us. I walked away with 13 medications in one day. Yeah, scary. And they didn't interact well together. But my point was that if I was feeling a certain way, it was abnormal. Well, it's okay to feel anxious. Depression is your brain. Depression is actually there for a reason. It's for your brain to rest. It's not so like depression, but it needs to take a break. ADHD, that's not even a thing in the UK. They don't believe in it. Like some of us just have extraordinary energy and capabilities, and we move really fast, and maybe we have high intellectual capacity. So these labels were out there, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go into the program. Like some days I'll wake up and I'm ready to build an empire, and other days I can't even create an email. It's kind of how my brain works. But and yet the thing that was amazing was underneath it was this undeniable fire. I had this obsession with ideas and a relentless desire to create and to build something that mattered, and that really drove me. Which again, that's just, and maybe you all feel that. Like sometimes there's just that innate need to just do something different or make a difference. And sometimes people don't understand that. I used to get told, Kim, why don't you just do your thing and just go to work and like go home like normal people. That just didn't ever happen. I would try, and then I'm like, oh, I should teach myself mosaicing. I should go do this. I should build this. I had 23 different businesses. I was a serial entrepreneur. I couldn't stop myself. If I saw them, I'm like, I think I could do that better. Like, I'm going to build that. Like, I had a 100-year-old ice house that was haunted. It was fabulous. I just want you to know. Wasn't the funnest work in the world, but it was really cool. It was beautiful. Big, huge, 300-pound ice box, yeah. So that's where the entrepreneurship comes in. It was through being an entrepreneur and the challenges of being an entrepreneur, resilience, perseverance, and these things. And I didn't realize it till later that my quirky personality could thrive in a space of entrepreneurship. But when I moved into a professional setting and became a dean out of college, that all came to a crashing halt. That was where I ran into issues of, like not being understood and being told, to go back in the cubicle and go do your work and do these things. And I'm like, no, I can't. Stop being how you are. You're too happy. You're too hyper. You're these. And it was like this language, and it really, on my journey, and you have your own self-discovery, but you have to be brave and courageous, right? Because you're saying, nah, I'm going to stand up for myself. So I ended up leaving my position. It was nothing to do with the college and that, but it was just really getting back to, I've worked so hard to be here. I can't go backwards and let other people define me and tell me what I need to do. And they don't understand my brain, right? And I could try to explain it, but it didn't work. So the superpowers, something that I teach to my students, and I'm going to share these with you, is I realized that I am so neurotypical. It's just, it's incredible. And I love it. And I wouldn't trade it. If you asked me if I wanted an easier journey, no. I wish I had the understanding and knowledge that I have. But what it's done is it's helped me help other people. And so I have a lot of people that I mentor and I coach for free. That are, neurotypical, or maybe they're somewhere in the spectrum. I love working with folks on the spectrum. It is a spectrum. It's beautiful in all different colors and all different levels, and there's no one the same. And my specialty is I really like working with personality disorders and bipolar. They're really challenging for people. So those were my specialty areas when I was in the program. And I'll give you a little bit more about what those mean. With disorders, there are superpowers within them, and you would look at me and say, Kim, that's not true, but it is. Like both bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. They come with like certain heightened senses, and we hear a lot about mania, and it's in the movies. But mania can also be this superpower to get things done if you can really drive in and focus on that. And then you don't have a lot of depression with bipolar 1, but bipolar 2 is challenging because you have hyperactivity, but you also have the depression. And they're very hard to treat because some medication affects one can change the other. But in the course of when I was on the pathway to licensure, I learned that these individuals came in feeling like, one, they were not typical, they were not normal, but one, they had something wrong with them. And that really bothered me. So I didn't really counsel or offer therapy from that space. I started focusing on brain health. So instead of that, let's look at that. Instead of saying you have a mental illness or you have a mental, it's so negative. I started, it's terrible. Like the first thing and you feel like you're ill, and I feel like people move into that space. So I discovered this superpower approach to therapy. And then I know this sounds odd, but I would have my individuals think of something they wanted to do and wanted to build, and they would build like some kind of a business. But what it did is it took them out of that space of illness and that mindset, and they'd have to refocus. Well, it actually really does, there's neuroscience to back it. It changes the brain, which no one knows about. So our neurotransmitters and our firing and our neuronal firing, our synaptic connections, you can actually really like re-energize the brain through this work. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Amen. He's fabulous. You see, you're familiar with his work? Yeah. So what I loved about his work was he was the first one to really scan the brain. So instead of going in and getting a diagnosis, and I'm not discounting therapy, and it has its place, thank goodness for it, but what I love is he would scan the brains and actually look at the brains in areas that were lighting up and areas that weren't. So if you want to look him up, I followed the Warrior's Way. It was really life-changing in my life. But anyway, it was that new approach. And I guess what I'm also sharing with you all is you kind of find your way in your niche and where you want to be through a bunch of different things that happen in our life. Like I could tell you a lot of sad things in my life, but they're not relevant now. It's the experience from them. What did I learn from them, and how did I survive? But how did I learn to thrive? But like with ADHD, for instance, it's rapid fire ideation, creative problem solving, and then energy that can spark movements. Like, so instead of saying, let's medicate you on Adderall or Ritalin, let's look at a way to channel like that energy. Anxiety, heightened awareness, risk analysis instincts, the drive to prepare for every scenario. And if you want to couple that with OCD, which is part of in the spectrum, that can be a lot, but you can learn to channel it by strengthening the brain. That is what I learned. I could strengthen my brain to enhance my superpowers and rechannel my energy. Instead of feeling downtrodden and in the space, I, over the last 10 years, have found a new method. And even in treatment, or even when I go back, they're like, you're just kind of a miracle. Because, usually you'll have the brain decline and different things that can happen. And I had receptor damage in my brain. And that created even more issues. So the receptors are kind of like the little communication lock and key. And so when the neurotransmitters are traveling down or serotonin's coming through, it's a lock and key and it opens it, and you should have like this feeling about it. And I wouldn't. I would have different feelings. So it was very confusing for a long time. They tried medicating me, they tried a lot of things, but the receptors are permanently damaged. And so that lock and key, so maybe how I felt about something I should feel this way, it would not, those neurotransmitters wouldn't transmit that. So I had like really heavy bouts of depression and different things, and then they diagnosed me that I was ADHD, and then I was bipolar, and then they were like, oh, is it schizophrenia? So I went through lots of years, and I just really decided I can't do this anymore, I can't do the medications. I'm not crazy, which is another terrible term. And so this was through my own, and I just got away from it all and started rebuilding myself. And then I thought, this is so good, I need to share this because it changed my life. So I did my couple research projects, live research projects. You have to go through the IRB. It's quite strenuous when you have real humans. So I was blessed to be able to try this out with real humans, which was fabulous. It was amazing, actually. I was humbled and stunned. But the way that they reacted just by reframing, like cognitive reframing on how they look at themselves and their diagnoses, to just take that and put it away in a closet and shut the door. Like, how do you feel? How do you feel when this arises? And reframing, and where are your super strengths? And for the young folks that I taught, they love the superheroes. So we always drew superheroes about who we were. And they love that. And so they would re-identify. But even like autism, it's, pattern recognition, focus, loyalty to values, innovation rooted in precision and curiosity. They're a joy to work with. And I have a lot of students. I get a lot of students anywhere on the spectrum from all over because they know that I understand. And so the last class we had, I had standing room only. I broke my heart to not let them be in my class. But I know, because they are a joy. Oh, and it was a lot of work. I mean, a lot of work, but they're just lovely, and it takes a while to kind of get there. I had a student, Ryan, he just excelled, and he would crack me up because I told him, you only got to raise your hand 16 times, because he would raise it 30, literally. And then he would get like this one, like Ryan, and he would go, my hand was stood up. But to see him over the course of this superpower, and he really identified with cosplay and because really where his brain is, he didn't feel normal. So a lot of times will identify with gaming and those types of things. So he was just taking on alternative identities to feel good. And he was very unkept, varying just really a level on the spectrum where I would say he was high functioning, but there were other areas. There's other areas that can be deficit, but. He ended up growing so much, and of course he was going to create 19 businesses, and I love that about him. But he was amazing by the time he left. It was amazing, this transformation of this young man who had been abused his whole life and found his superpowers. He wrote me something that made me cry, and I'm not going to share it because I'm not crying on video. But he never ever felt good, and we never talk about being normal. He just felt like him. And he's doing really great. He still reaches out to ask me to go to the movies and go dress up for cosplay. I'm going to have to do that. But the superpowers, really helped him. And also entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship gives agency to people who feel kind of lost. Maybe they don't fit into, a space that, in the workplace, a lot of individuals that think differently, that's not commonplace. Like in the workplace, it's binary thinking, it's right or wrong, success, failure. And we live in this world, but when you are, let's just say neurodivergent, it's not a mental health disorder, so it's not diagnosed with nothing. It just means that you think differently, you're wired differently. That's it. It's not a mental health disorder. When we got really DSM-5 has went through several reiterations, but it's DSM-5 now. I think it's like 1,000 pages. It's almost depressing to read it. Because you're like, ooh, I probably have that. Oh, gosh, I have that. Oh, I know so-and-so that has that. And you start like self-diagnosing, and like it's so depressing. Shut that thing. Shut it. And then I was in the clinical psychology setting. That's what we use. That's our manual. So, it
hasn't been changed for, 40 years?
Oh, thank you. No, not at all. No, they're still using it. And the other thing is, you have to use it because, it's diagnosis and it's insurance, and I get it. But it has not changed. It was honestly I love reading. That was the most depressing book I've ever read in my life. And we had to look through the whole thing. And I would read in this book, and I would reach out. There's all the diagnoses, you assess and you diagnose. And I remember one day I was sitting there and I thought, I can't do it anymore. Like, I just can't. And I told my supervisor, I said, I cannot take a human being I know really nothing about, read the DSM-5, and I am very good at assessing, diagnosing. Like, it's very natural for me, but it didn't feel right. So now I'm going to say goodbye to you. I can't have any interaction with you, and then I'm just going to recommend a medication. It was terrible. So I no longer, much to probably my husband, I've changed careers 9 million times. He's probably really sad about that. He's like, you did all that work, but my heart wasn't in it. But I saw an opportunity to do more. And then when I started developing this kind of superpower idea and working with people, it helped other people understand that they're wired differently too. And there's just some kind of comfort in that. I had a post about it on LinkedIn, and I had someone reach out to me and say, this is the first time I've felt heard in my whole life. Thank you. This is me. So I think to be courageous and to embrace it is hard. It's difficult. And there are things I am terrible at, so terrible. Do not give me math. I'm serious. My brain just like, but there are other things that we excel at. And I think that knowing that is really good. So the other thing too is like if you needed tools, and then I'll share some deeper information with you about the brain itself and just some of the disorders that I don't like to call disorders, but so if you work with someone that you feel like it resonates, or if it, or you feel it in yourself sometimes, and you feel kind of like you're on that edge and unable to control it. And I don't know if any of you have experienced that, where you're just like, I used to say I was like on a puppy. Have you ever seen a Tasmanian devil at the zoo? That's me. Have you ever seen them? They run like, their eyes are, and they go, and they really go like a million times, and then they go, and they fall over. I was at the zoo, and it's the truth. They are like me. And one of my family members said, oh my God, that's you? I'm like, pretty much. That was my animal. That's my spirit animal, by the way. That or a badger, I'm not sure which one, but I'm going to go with both. But I think that finding your own path, building your own path, structuring your day, defining your values, creating space for your ideas starts building on that superpower. And when I started cultivating that and putting everything aside, then things really changed. And then when they went and looked at my brain again, they saw change in my brain. Like I actually, from that deeper level, had to make changes in my brain. And I know it gives me chills still to talk about it. I'm like, ooh, wow, well, now what's next? Like I feel like a superpower, like here I go. I think it terrified my family. They're like, oh my gosh, now here she goes. But I think, a lot of times when we have any type of mental health issues, or we have people in our family or friends, and it's so much suffering associated with it. Again, I think it's that lack of understanding. We suffer because we're trying to control it and understand something that we don't understand. And we can never feel what someone feels like living in it. If you've had very severe depression or bipolar, and schizophrenia is one of the, you have to treat it, it has to be medicated. But we don't, if you haven't lived it, you don't know, what people are feeling. Or personality disorders, there's no treatment for personality disorder. That's it. I'm sorry, but that's it, And so, if you have borderline personality disorder, it's a really rough one. Histrionic, or, we all know the term narcissist, right? So these are tough, and people that live with them, it's tougher for them. And so when I teach this, I teach it from an education platform to help, whether you're in this space or you're working with others that are in space. The other thing it does when you increase your education is it enables you to have a superpower. It's very cool when you understand, and when you see a situation or someone, but you understand and no one else gets it. That's a really beautiful thing. And a lot of times people will recognize that in me, like literally will approach me. And anyone on the spectrum usually will approach me, like that's just, they know. And I love that anywhere on the spectrum. It's just like that commonality, but they know that that's a good space, for them to be. But I learned that the tools that have helped keep me grounded and forward moving when my brain just wants to go do its thing, I create rhythms, not rigid schedules. Daily intentions, not task lists. I can't do that. I have to have a lot of flexibility. It also lets those ideas flow, and I'm really, I was definitely a Freudian theory of, the unconscious, subconscious, and consciousness, but it allows those areas to flow freely. So things that are down in there that I would never be able to access are now there. They're free and kind of loosened up. It's really cool. Co-regulation through community. I surround myself with the right people that don't flinch when I am having a rough week. And I let people know when I'm having a rough week. When my brain decides to do its own thing, I warn people because it's going to do its own thing. I work really hard to be present, but sometimes I can't. So I make appointments with people and say, my brain is not going to work today. And so I want to be present for you, and I'll schedule time. It takes a lot of pressure off of me and them. And for people that I work with that have children, I do that with them, actually with their children, to schedule time out, because they want to control, they want to love, they want to coddle. And sometimes that's more based on what they need than what the child needs. And so understanding that sometimes that what they need is that flexibility, or, they need, people that can be calm, and, because it's chaotic in the brain. Creative outlets, I cannot say enough about building things, drawing, dreaming out loud. They're survival strategies. I write a lot. When my brain doesn't function in this modern world, I go and write. I wish I was artistic and could draw. That would be really cool, but I'm not. So I have my gift. Again, my superpower. And I did do a lot of art therapy, and I tried a lot of things, but it didn't really work. Equine therapy worked really well for me. Horses are very calming. And then just creative outlets, things that I can do. Sometimes I just turn the music up on really loud and dance. It feels really good. Did you also know that if you dance on a regular basis, it can reduce your risk of dementia and Alzheimer's? You don't want to see me dance, I will not dance for you. It is not pretty. I'm not a dancer. But it helps, like when to bring the calm in. I know my red flags. Self-talk is something that we need to address, and more so with folks, anyone that's challenged by anything. The self-talk, the negative self-talk can really be hard. It's very hard on the brain. The brain, without going into too much detail, and we talked a little bit about skiing, the brain creates patterns. And I remember a professor used the analogy of snow tracks, like when you're skiing and you just make those tracks in the snow. It's kind of how the brain, you tell the brain what to think and feel. And I don't know if people understand that. This is a machine, but you control it. So if you say, I'm gonna have a bad day, or I feel like crap, or anything, you're recording it. Your brain is there to help you do that. So really, really reframing it's called cognitive, reframing, but your thought patterns. And even when you feel those negative, their self-serving biases are terrible, and the negative thoughts, you're really, you're rewiring your brain to move down that path. And I don't know if you know this, but the brain is hardwired to be happy. I dispelled this, and we did a research project. I was proven wrong. I'm not always right, which is really sad for me to realize. I have a tiny list of things I was wrong about. No, I'm kidding. It's a tiny little notebook. I thought, no, there's no way. But anyway, we worked with several individuals, and the brain is hardwired to be happy. The depression is to help the brain rest and reset. Moderate depression. So anyway, I was looking where I'm at. Oh, good, I'm running out of time. But anyway, so when we fight things and we put challenge on ourselves, when you're like, oh, well, I have to be happy, or I have to do these things, you don't have to do anything. Listen to what you're feeling, and listen to what you're telling your brain. Have you ever had the times when you're really late and you're getting agitated and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm probably going to spill my coffee, I'm probably going to stub my toe, and you do. You literally just told your brain, I'm stubbing my toe and you're just going to spill my coffee on me. And so it dysfunctions. There's all these beautiful spaces in our brain, and it does the best it can. And then also our limbic system, we can hardwire our brain for fear and live in a state of fear. That's really easy to do. Rumination, sad side product of bipolar. A lot of bipolar folks ruminate a lot, that control, because they don't feel the control, and they ruminate and they overprocess and they overthink, and it creates a lot of stress and anxiety. There's a lot of byproducts with mental health issues that people don't understand, or you don't understand that comorbidity is, more than one diagnosis. So a lot of times you'll see folks that get diagnosed with more than one thing. I don't know, it's like little clusters. You get one, you're just gonna have 4. You're like, all right, here I go. Let's see, I'm this. I'm gonna have ADHD. I'm gonna collect ADHD today, a little anxiety, a little OCD. And how we refer to OCD is not really how OCD is. It's obsessive compulsive disorder is really a different thing. Wanting things in the right space and doing that is probably your brain wanting order in your life. Not so much if you had trauma or had a house broken into and then you're paranoid about relocking it, right? Usually it's out of some kind of trauma or something, I believe. But it's also a way for your brain likes to organize so things feel good. Again, remember, it wants you to be happy. So imagine folks that are wired differently, how difficult that is when they have all of this stuff going on and the whole world's telling them that they're not normal and they're these things, how are they ever going to find that happiness, right? I feel like we take away their happiness. And then I celebrate wins. For neurodivergent entrepreneurs, finish an email can be just as powerful as landing a client. I have to finish things. I don't know if you all feel that way, but I have to finish. Like if I start something, I have to finish it. My brain is too chaotic to not finish. And so if you're working with others or you want to be helpful, that's some of the things that you can do. Some of these things that I shared, helping them when I work with some of my students and it's chaotic in class, I take everything away. And you know what we do? We draw. I keep mandalas and pens and crayons and markers in my backpack. We just stop. It's not going to work. They're not there with me. And I may have a room of 40 students and 30, some of them may have something they've been diagnosed with. Nor have they ever really had someone that understood where they're at. So I stop everything. And we draw superheroes. And everyone calms down. And it helps with the brain when you do that. They have discovered that doodling, when I had students with schizophrenia, doodling really helps the brain and helps calm. So my schizophrenic students could doodle, and I let them turn in papers that have doodling on it because it's really good for the brain. So I think in our life, when we are working with people around them, just really being thinking outside the box. You know, like what do you really do if you see someone that is struggling? Understanding that can just mean a lot of knowing how to reach out, never asking them what's wrong, because there's nothing wrong. Right? Asking them what's wrong is not the point, but just say, hey, where can I help you? Would you like to go look at this? Like distracting and helping them works really well. So if you're wired differently, you're not broken, you're not alone. You're not disqualified from building something incredible. I feel like that a lot of folks, for me, I got told I would never do anything. I wasn't smart from my brain being wired differently. So I was terrified of college. I dropped out 7 times. Thank gosh I was old enough, it was on Fish and no one knows about it, only you all. Now it's on YouTube, great. I look so cool and then you're like, gosh, you dropped out 7 times. But they tried to put me in a box and make me take classes and make me be something, and I didn't even really know who I was and what I was. And now I got to be on a path. I'm like a pathway. Who wants to be on a pathway? So I stayed rogue for a long time and I did whatever I wanted. And I created businesses, and I think more so than creating a business, I built who I was. Like I didn't realize at the time I was building who I was as a human. You know, every business I did, or even a success or failure, I learned something else about myself. And I had moments where I thought I was going to be really kidnapped by Sasquatch when I had a rock crushing plant. I will never do that again. But I learned a lot. Sitting out there running that equipment, thinking, you know, I'm in Sasquatch country. It's it. He's going to see me and go, wow, you are so strange. I am so going to kidnap you. Like, I would think about that. But everything I did helped me retrain my brain. So instead of me just giving in, I challenged myself to do things and learn things that I would never learn to do in my life. So I would take on things deliberately that were challenging to help my brain, retrain my brain. From living in a space of so many years of being judged and told things that were so negative, you know, you start recording it in your brain. How do you retrain your brain, right, if you're wired differently? When the voices in your head are so loud, or they're from your parents or from people. So that was a big part for me. I suddenly embraced, I liked being a misfit. I liked being an outlier. It was fun. It made people uncomfortable. I was okay with that because I had been uncomfortable my whole life. I'm like, how's it feel? It was great. So that was the part when I really felt like with mental health for me, and my family had a history of bipolar and schizophrenia, and I was diagnosed with bipolar 2, and I was diagnosed with several things. Like I said, I came with a card this big. It was like, to me, it was like getting an F. The biggest, fattest, reddest F you've ever gotten in your life, getting this card. You're all these things. You're going to be medicated. Bipolar gets worse as you age. You're going to have a decaying brain. You're going to be this. You're going to be that. And I wonder in my mind how many other people get told that. How many get told there's no hope, or you're going to have to be medicated and have therapy for the rest of your life. And I call bullshit on that. So if there's any therapists watching this, they're going to be really ticked off. But anyway, I don't believe in that. I think that we have to reframe how we talk about it, how we deal with it. I think we are the best people to do that because they're not going to get it, anywhere else. I'm going to share a couple of things, and I have some things that I wanted to kind of talk about for us and what questions you have for me. So neurodivergent refers to individuals whose brains processes, learns, or behaves that they process, learn, or behave differently from what is considered typical, okay, or neurotypical, they're atypical. ADHD, autism, dyslexia, I don't know if you know what Tourette's is, OCD, and those are all fall in that, the spectrum. I had a student that had Tourette's, and it was just, you know, the blinking and the random, you know, F word, it was just part of their life. And so they had really been ostracized, been kicked out of multiple classes. And I was like, all right, let's make a rule. Here are the bad words that you can say. These are totally off limits. But if you want to let these rip out, you're fine. But I'm going to give you a set number because, you know, people on the spectrum, they count, you can do a lot because they understand. So he tried to negotiate back and forth. And then I had varying levels of spectrum. So it was a really challenging class because they were so very different. But anyway, we got it narrowed down. He had 8, and that wasn't bad. And a class 3 hours long. He went over a couple times. But what was really cute was to see him thrive and grow. And I'm going to tell you this story because I have to. It's too amazing. So he'd been diagnosed. He'd been on medication. He's brilliant, by the way. Most folks are just brilliant. This is this beautiful, you're accessing these areas of your brain that most of us don't get to access. So he wanted to find love. And so most people know, you're emotional, they don't emote very well, they don't address social cues, sometimes they don't even recognize facial, and he didn't recognize any of that. Like I could go like, with him, and he'd be like, I have no idea what you're doing. Like he didn't understand. So he wanted to find love, and he had been told that he would never love with his diagnosis. I said, no, I don't know if that's true or not. We're gonna play. So a couple things, incredible writer, just amazed me. So we ended up tapping into his superpowers. Well, as he tapped in the superpowers, he became more confident and doing more things. So he conducted a study, and I do a lot of studies with my students. He was going to make like a mixtape, and he had like Spotify or something, and he took all of the songs that were in his Spotify and on his tape, and he ran them through like an AI generator to kind of get this printout of his personality and can he feel emotion based on his music. So he ends up calling me crying. First time he'd ever cried in his life. To say, Kim, I can love. When he put it in the AI generator, it still gives me chills. When he put it in the AI generator said, you're such an emotional human. It wasn't me, it was AI. I want to take credit for it. It was my teaching. But he called me and I thought, oh my gosh, he's an amazing individual. We're still in contact. He is engaged to be married, by the way. Aww. He had lived his whole life alone. So in class, just giving him, I didn't do anything. I gave him the platform. I gave him permission to be himself. I gave him permission to deal with his Tourette's. It was fine with me. It didn't bother me at all. I was a construction worker. You can drop the F-bomb all you want. It didn't faze me at all. But he got to be who he was and accepted. And so I love his emails too, because I don't know if you've ever worked with anyone. They're short and concise. Like he doesn't like if I get really elaborate. Hey, Doc Freeze. Yeah, got engaged. Guess I can love. Bye. Like, all right, that's very cool. So anyway, that is, it's not a disorder or flaw. It's just a natural variation in how the brain is wired. So when people say I'm a neurodivergent, I have there's nothing. It's just the brain is wired differently. ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, neurodevelopmental condition, but attention, impulse control, emotional regulation, and executive functioning, not prefrontal cortex, is different. So we've seen it with sustained, attention, impulsivity, restlessness. Impulsivity is tied to a lot of mental health challenges. But one thing I love when I work with people with ADHD is creativity, energy, and out-of-the-box thinking. When the students are in the right place, or adults that I work with, it's fantastic. But learning how, for them to understand they're wired differently, and then to take away that ADHD diagnosis. Literally, I've had students that have been on medicated for years get off medication with, their therapist, not me, but I've seen them change drastically by understanding that their brain is wired differently. And then taking control of that brain, not living in that space of being medicated. Like the rule of the medication really is to help us emotionally regulate and get to a space where we're healthy, like Medicaid therapy, get us to a space where we're stable, right? We're not at risk or suicide ideation. That's the goal of medication, unless there's something that you really truly need to be medicated for. But that is the pathway that we've started down now. But never in those conversations has it ever talked about your brain being wired differently. That biological piece that's so important. You're understanding the neurotransmitters and how important the GABAs and gammas and all these things are in our brain. Without understanding that, I feel like we never tap into just really what people have. What's underneath that surface that no one's ever looked at, like lifting up a rock. Like, I'm still lifting up rocks. Sometimes there's creepy things under there, but you never know what you're going to find. And I think with this, if we don't lift up that rock and we don't get away from just that diagnosis, we're never going to find what we have as far as our superpowers. Autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder, so we have neurocognitive disorders, or the Parkinson's and Lou Gehrig and all those diseases in that space. But neurodevelopmental is the autism in the spectrum. And they call it the spectrum because it is not the same. You can be high and low on the spectrum, like it's varying levels, different things for everyone. And not everyone in those spaces has difficult, like with, emoting or social cues and that, and everyone is very different. But I will say that key traits are, it affects how they communicate, interact socially, and experience the world. And it is a beautiful lens, I have to tell you. They share stories with me, things I would never even, I'm like, where did that come from? Like, don't you see it? I'm like, I do now. Thank you. They see the world very differently. And then they have unique sensory processing. So a lot of times on the spectrum, there can be sensory sensitivities. That's really common. How my students game, and it's so loud. They've made me game with them, and I'm terrible at gaming. And they're like, wow, we're going to put you in. They had Mario Kart. I couldn't even do Moo Moo Meadow. It was hilarious. And they're just like, but there's certain things like lights, sounds, textures. A lot of times I'll turn the lights off in my class, change my tone of my voice, different things. But unique patterns of thinking, communicating, very deep focus on interests on specific topics, and a preference for routine or structure. So if you have someone in your life that is there and you want to help them identify their superpowers, understanding the key traits of that, where they're functioning from, and then can help them feel more normal. Like if you say, nope, we're going to mess up your routine, we're going to pull you out of it. It's not going to work. How can you help them to find their superpowers within that routine or structure? Because that's what they need. It's important to them. So the spectrum is a wide range of experiences or traits. People on the spectrum may have very different strengths, challenges, and ways of engaging with the world, and so from mild to severe. So it's a constellation of traits that show up differently in everyone. That's why they call it the spectrum. There's just no one that's the same. And I've had so many varying individuals in teaching for 20 years. I love it. It's like a rainbow. I don't know what I'm going to get in class. And I walk in and go, ooh, wow, I'm going to have to work really hard at this one. But it's beautiful, within that space. I've not had a student not grow and not change and not find their super. I never. I've always been successful with it. I think sometimes the students that are probably more typical are more challenged. But it's just these folks embrace it, and they love being connected to and understood. It's really neat. And if you're wired differently, right? I think we need to reframe it from a deficit to just a difference. How do we embrace that? Spotlight our strengths, have conversations. It's okay to say what it is that you have. It's not you, right? It's something you have. It makes you unique. It's not a bad thing. It's okay. You're going to think differently and have things that other people may never experience in their life. I've probably experienced things that I don't think I could ever explain, just because of my brain, the way it's wired. I can have a huge sense of awe, AWE, awe. I experience awe at massive mega levels. I love this so much because other people don't. And awe is really good for your brain. So my brain probably lets me experience awe because it's very healthy for your brain. If you look it up when you leave here, look up the benefits of awe. Not like aha, because the students, when I tell them I have to go AWE, not the awe. They get it, But look it up. It's wonderful. So those are the things that we have that are special that we embrace. There's other things that I don't enjoy that people enjoy. Like I'm very visually, auditorily I have challenges. So I do feel my senses and things. So I understand how to adjust them and how to take care of it. So with neurodivergent, it's the brain wiring, and not getting too deep in that, but you have heightened sensitivity, creativity, idea generation, pattern recognition is something that we have, intuitive problem solving, And there's some strength-based reframing, and if you ever want some of this, I could be happy to share with you. But I'm going to talk about ADHD for once. For instance, dynamic energy, fast processing, and ID generators. So if you said you've been diagnosed with ADHD, you have dynamic energy, fast processing, and you're an idea generator, isn't that very different than saying, oh my God, you're so hyper and you talk all the time? What a shocker. It changes everything for people. Students will come to my class and go, okay, I'm going to be really hyper in here because I have ADHD, and you're going to make me leave class, and you're not alone. I'm like, no, I love it. And they're like, what? Let's channel it. Like, what do you like? What do you want to learn about? And I give them side projects, and they get to go study and learn about what they want. More so learn about themselves. They change. Not that they aren't still like talking 100 miles an hour, but I get it. My brain processes, we get along really fine. Autism spectrum, system thinkers, detail-oriented innovation through unique perspectives. Some of my favorite folks to work with. I love it a lot. It's challenging, but I love it. I learn something all the time. I mean, and they just, I get humble. I get humble pie sometimes. I'm like, ooh, I got this. And I'm like, no, I don't have it. But I was thinking about neurodivergent superpower. Do any of you mind sharing? Like, do you have a trait that you were told that was a weakness that may be a strength? Does anyone have anything?
Too emotional.
Oh, and then how was that a strength?
In my career, like in leadership, it's given me the opportunity to be an authentic leader and a compassionate leader and connect with my team.
Oh, I love that. Authentic, because of
Mm-hmm.
okay, I love that. Thank you. Okay, and those are the things that we look for. You just took something that could have a negative connotation, and you just reframed it. Really simple. Yeah. Nice.
Procrastination. Yeah.
Yeah. And then how could that be a superpower?
Well, if you wait till the last 5 minutes, it only takes 5 minutes. For me, it's like, oh, you got a week to do this. It's like, well, I don't want to take a week to do it. I want to take a day. So, and it's good when I do it. I get under pressure, and I just knock it out.
And that's your superpower. You perform better under pressure. I'm the same way. And I think also, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of times procrastinators are great thinkers. I don't know if you knew that. You know why? You are a great thinker. Because a lot of times when we procrastinate, our minds are busy and we're thinking about other things or we're doing things. We're not obsessed with, okay, I got to get that done. It's actually healthy, but for my students, not procrastinating on assignments, but it's thinkers typically. I have friends that are great procrastinators, but they're just great thinkers. And they're like, oh, now I'm going to get it done the last minute, and they do a fantastic job. But that is your superpower. Not everyone can do that and roll it out and be successful. So yeah, thank you for that. Those are those little things that I feel like I don't know, like we can just go, well, okay, I'm not going to do it anyway because I procrastinate. Everybody says I'm a procrastinator, so I'm not going to do it, a procrastinator. Like those are the things that it does, this change within our brain. Again, it rewires the brain. Literally, I can't tell you enough. The brain listens to everything we say and do. Everything. Like it'll never let you down on that. So think about that. Also destigmatizing, like for mental clarity. I've been using AI a lot. And that's what I spoke about at the EMP. I was so delighted that Jordan Peace invited me, and I got to sit with some colleagues, and who are way more intelligent around that than I am. I'm just kind of a basic, simple person. But I used AI, discovered in my class with my students, that they process differently. So if I'm teaching in a lecture, my students are listening and functioning and following the lecture. Most of the time, if they're not sleeping or all jacked up on caffeinated drinks or energy drinks. So what I started doing was taking with each of my students, I understood where they're at. So I would take how I feel like they process, and I would run it into AI, and then I would give that to them. So they get their own custom notes. So when it's too big and these concepts are too big and they need it scheduled and organized, some of my students like bullet points. So I started utilizing AI for my brain. So I'm utilizing AI, multiple types I use Gemini and Claude and different types of AI, but to help organize my brain. It's been amazing. It's almost like you hire those organizers to come to your house and declutter it. I feel like it's kind of, I need one of those too. That would be really cool. But it has helping me declutter my brain. I can literally ask, and when it's just going 100 miles an hour, and you've worked with me a little bit, I idea all the time. Like I think of things 24/7. And so it was funny. This morning I logged in and Claude was there and said, Kim, coffee and reorganizing this morning. I'm like, oh, whoa, that's like, wow. It was very cool. So the tools are out there too that we did not have. Like I use it for focus, creativity, and planning for my students. And it takes time, but it's worth it for them because they're not having a good experience, especially if they have high comorbidity. I had a student, bipolar 1, and he just, oh my gosh, he struggled. He had been overdiagnosed and medicated his whole life. Like he is just no energy, no life in his eyes. So I started utilizing AI, and he's been failing at everything he was ever done in life. And I said, we have to rewire your brain. Like we have 11 weeks together. We got to do this fast. Like let's chop. And he, it was always dropped out because he just doesn't comprehend and process that way. So we started utilizing AI, and I started generating. His was more challenging just because he had been so overly medicated. He'd show up to class really medicated. And some of the medications don't get along. So he was exhausted. So I let him take a nap, a little snooze, and then we picked back up, and we found a way for him to organize his notes. So he just needed that little checkout, give the brain a check, little tiny rest, because he would come in stressed. But anyway, it was the first time he got to see in class, but it was the first time he'd ever passed a class in his life. Yeah, so these are the tools that are out there and things that we can do. So the neurodivergent brain is nonlinear, it's fast, it's sometimes disorganized. AI can help as a cognitive assistant, so I use it as an assistant. A creative collaborator, that's the fun part. I love brainstorming and creating. Probably why it reaches out to me now. I think it's having fun with me too, and we're kind of have this thing. It's like, hey, entertain me for today. Emotional regulator, journaling, mood tracking, affirmations. A friend and I are working on an idea of journaling in a way that helps individuals, primarily spectrum, but also I'm finding that helping bipolar individuals because their moods are so up and down all the time. And they don't have to be. So we're starting to utilize AI a little bit more. And then the journals are really neat. They help like through the day, and they have checkpoints through the day. So like if you identified, like for instance, if we were mentoring together, we would identify different things that folks need. So right, that schedule, those things. So we build those in the journal. So they start the journal how they feel in the morning, and then they know these are 4 things in their life that help them stay in a space where they can flow and be them and flexible. And then if things aren't working out, they have the courage to say that's not working out, or I'm overwhelmed today. And it's starting to work pretty well. And it's nice for them because it's neutral, it's AI, it's not a person saying, oh wow, you're getting spastic or you're doing this and that. It's not that language of the you language, but it gives them an opportunity. So we're just starting it. A few of my students have some really neat apps. One is the one he has is really cool about moods and stuff. So he struggled his whole life, and so through the class and what we're doing, he's starting to move forward pretty well. So it's pretty cool. And then structure generator, planning days, outlining big ideas. So Ryan, who I adore, I had to put him on planning days because he'll just, they're gone. So we planned and we outlined his big ideas, his 19 businesses. Oh, let's pick one because that's a lot of business. So he's working on one, I hope still. And then we use ChatGPT to break down overwhelming tasks. AI generated schedules for ADHD brain. It breaks, and with breaks gives dopamine boosts. So there's ways you can boost different neurotransmitters in your brain, which is really cool. You even have that control. And so I wanted to share that today, that I utilize the ChatGPT because I can be there for my students, or people that I work with, but I can't be there all the time. So how can I give them the tools when the world isn't kind and I'm not there? How can I give them tools to continue to thrive? And so that's where AI has been really beneficial. They check in, and you can get it free because a lot of times they don't have the means. And so I've been utilizing it in a way, I don't know that it was intended, but it's really been helpful. And then on the entrepreneurial mindset, when I was in the program, my specialty was bipolar and anxiety and stress and trauma like related disorders, and I had a traumatic childhood that probably started these decline in my cognitive abilities, my brain. And I had an injury, and that's where it created the injury in my brain that created the receptors. So it was just kind of this history of that. And learning how to emotionally regulate was really important, but I really tell you it was the entrepreneurial mindset that helped me overcome things and not see myself as a victim. to not be sad, not hang on to all the things of what happened to me, but what can I become? Like, I'm enough. Like, it helped me realize that, which was the strangest thing. So I had my specialty area. You're writing your dissertation, right? You have your defense date. It's so stressful. If you fail any part of the PhD program, you're done. Like, you don't get to start over. You have to start over. I'm in the middle. It's December. I'm going to defend in June, and I can't do it. I love what I know. I'm so grateful for that, but I wanted to write about entrepreneurial mindset and how it changed my life. They're like, you can't do it. It's not out there. It's not going to happen. I think I was annoying anyway because I did all the extra credit and I did a lot of stuff because it's my brain. I think they were like, gosh, please get rid of Kim. They're like, oh, now she's going to be around longer. But I flipped. It's what I do. And I said, no, I'm not feeling it. I want to look at how my brain is wired differently, and I want to show and prove that entrepreneurial mindset can help community college students with mental health issues. And they said it can't be done. And I thought, that's all I need, the fuel for that. It's like, I'm like, wow, that was like, woo, gasoline on the fire. I went, oh, watch me. Wrote it. There was someone that created theirs quicker than me, but I wrote a whole dissertation in 5 months. I was on fire. It was the most beautiful thing. That's, again, where I learned that we don't have to listen to what's out there. And I learned to rewire my brain and train it, which was really hard. And I mean, I did 7 days a week, but I ended up writing it more so I ended up proving that alternative adjunctive things that we do help rewire our brain. They don't have to be in that straight line of, cognitive behavioral therapy or dialectic. There are treatments that you must use, certain therapies to, especially dialectical with people have eating disorders, and there's certain disorders that certain treatments require that. But I found that by that whole piece is that the adjunctive stuff can also help folks further along, which was like a really neat discovery. So anyway, I did defend successfully, and thank God I graduated. I was like, whew. I mean, talk about sweating the whole time. I'm like, whoa, this is like the worst thing I've ever been in my life. But I survived and learned from it, and I became stronger. Because our fear should never define us. But when we live in these spaces, we don't understand our brain. This is your computer. And it can create a lot of fear and anxiety when you don't understand what's going on in here and you're disconnected. And you have this APA axis, and the gut and the brain are connected. And so people don't understand a lot of what we struggle with. It's just really that disconnect. But when you bring it together, a lot of things start happening. Things connect the dots and you start feeling better. Not only do you feel better, but you're also better able to help other people. You see the lens. You have this lens that you see everything differently. And I am grateful. I do see things very differently. So differently than most people. And I have an enormous amount of patience. Probably because I have to be patient with myself every day. But it's a really beautiful thing. And even if you don't have something, or you don't think your brain's wired differently, we are all wired differently, by the way, you can still utilize what I shared to build up superpowers. Like creativity or procrastination might lead to something where there's things that you need to do that you need to, procrastinate. Delayed gratification is a big deal. It's huge for the brain. Huge. They have higher success rate with people who use delayed gratification. So you may have delayed gratification even though you procrastinate. It's more satisfying when you wait and get it done all at once. It's that reframing.
Well, it's satisfying in the beginning when I'm not doing anything. That's very satisfying.
You know what? That is so satisfying. I share with Shady, I have a satisfaction cup, and I measure everything by my satisfaction cup, and it is very satisfying sometimes to do that. Or just take a mental, rest and. But like creativity and curiosity and all of these things are really important for all of us. And they did a study, and it was really dismal, reporting out how much creativity we lose by the time we're an adult. I think they say we have an average of 3 or 4% we use of our full capacity. It was shocking. I know. That and the happiness one really got me. But being curious and being creative and for your brain, and if you do feel like you're wired differently, you identify and you say, wow, I feel like like I am a neurodivergent. You need autonomy and flexibility. You need turning word into being innovative. I used to wear this shirt, you're going to laugh or not, but it was, runs with scissors. And I used to wear these random shirts when I was kind of coming out as whatever I was. And it was so funny. People be like, whoa, does not work well with others. I would just wear these random shirts, and my psychology instructor said, wow, Kim, when you're doing this, you're really doing it. I'm like, I'm just going to go all in. Random t-shirts that would get people to talk to me. Or they would go really far around me. That's fine. That's fine. so I think like turning into what you have into your best. And what do you want? Like, honestly, what do you want out of your life? This one big, beautiful life. What do you want? What do you want? I think about that a lot. And maybe it's not what the world thinks that we should want. Maybe all these aspirations of success or wherever we're at, maybe that isn't what is for us. But what do you want? And that's what I do a lot with my students and anyone I work with. No, I don't care about that. What do you want? And that really should be our sole purpose. And if you've read The Meaning of Man, have any of you read Viktor Frankl's work? A tiny little book, best book ever. It's a little mini power pack book. But one thing that got me about it was his struggles and being in the Holocaust, and the reason he was saved because he was a psychologist and he had to run these experiments and lost everyone in his life. And you would think this would be a really sad story, but he grew in his mental resilience so much that he realized that it came down to having purpose. And when I was really struggling in dark times in my life, when there was no one there and no one understood, zero family, me and 3 girls against the world, that book was really big for me. And I realized that I had not had purpose either. And I needed purpose in order to heal and in order to get my brain in a space, because I couldn't just make my brain go do these things. It was never going to happen. And it was exhausting. And so I just built purpose in my life when I made my changes. So everything had a purpose. And it wasn't always just tied to money. It wasn't, monetary. It wasn't these things, but it was purpose. And if it gave me purpose and filled my satisfaction cup, then it was good. And through that, I healed a lot and had a lot of, like for me, it was all about brain health. Because I really worried about my brain deteriorating with just the things that had happened inside of it. And got told, I was going to have to be medicated my whole life. I haven't taken medication in 20 some years. So probably longer than that. So anyway, it was through building that resiliency. And then just, like again, just like about reframing it, and then like when you see other people are recognizing, and I also say that spend time with yourself. Spend time with just you. And just don't let anything creep in or let anyone else says. Or like you're building this beautiful business. What feels good? Sheena, what fills your satisfaction cup? Right? And those are the things that should guide us, even in, whether we're entrepreneur or not. All of us are entrepreneurial. All of us have probably some cool idea or something that would be really awesome, whether you sell it at a little lemonade stand or whatever it is, doesn't matter, right? It's that you ideated and you created and you embraced who you are. That's what matters. Like it doesn't, nothing else matters. But I'd like to take a moment and just ask a couple questions, just kind of a reflective prompt, and then I want you to ask me questions. But what part of your mind do others misunderstand, but it's a strength? Like just some thoughts to reflect on.
I'll go.
Oh, thank you.
Strategic overview. I see the big picture quickly and often.
Oh.
And sometimes you try to share that, and it's like people just can't hang with you.
No.
Yeah.
True. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't. And it feels, when you throw that out there and you have this big, beautiful vision, it's kind of like a big balloon, and it's kind of like they stick a little thing in it, and it's difficult for people. You're a divergent thinker. People are very binary, and like it's just hard for them to go there. Like, well, how are you going to get there? How did you plan it? Or what are you going to do? Or where's the money? And you want to be out there in this whole big. Don't stop. Please don't stop ever. That's a beautiful thing.
And, and it's easier if you're the boss or something.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you understand it.
Oh, yeah, truly. And I think that's probably why I was entrepreneurial and had my own companies. That's a good point, because that is true. And I found that in some spaces where I felt like I was in a box. Yeah. But it's kind of like, no, we don't do that. We've never done that. I don't like that saying we've never done it before.
But if you're trying to tell your boss, it really makes no sense to do this, it doesn't fit. It's like, well, that's more difficult. So.
That is really difficult. And how do you help them, see that space? I found, I call it smudging. Mm-hmm. I do tiny little bits and pieces until they go, oh, epiphany. Oh. Right. But I love that. Don't stop. That's a beautiful thing. Like, we need more big thinkers. Really, anyone else? What part of your mind do others misunderstand, but it's a strength? I'll give you one, my extraordinary energy. Because I did. Thank you.
Well, it's where I have a vision for something,
Mm-hmm.
and someone will say, well, we should do it this way. And I'm like, no. And they take it as me being stubborn or controlling or bossy.
But that is.
But I have like a whole painting in my head, and you have to do it the way I'm asking you to do it, or it's not going to come together the way I envision.
Yeah. And that is a beautiful. And that is so important. I think that happens a lot in life because it's really what feels right to you and what you see. And it has to happen. But people see it. But again, that's that lens of where people, they just take that as something else. And so it's like, it's hard to do that, but it is our job to teach them differently. So sometimes when I'm in that space, I'll preface it with something. Or like I'll say, I have a ginormous idea. It's wild. And I get kind of wild about it. And I'm like, but I'm going to tell you it all, but it can be done. But here's some things. But I will do that because I'm the same way. I will see it and I cannot change it. And people are like, oh, you're, even in the work setting, I'm terrible at this. I will see the big, beautiful vision and how it needs to go. And then people are like, oh, no, that doesn't work. And they want to pick it apart. And then they think I'm being bossy. But I reframe it for them. Hold on before you say anything like that. And just, let's try it. Move into this space. You'll learn something new and try it with me. Sometimes that does work. But a lot of times it becomes that battle. But I love that. That's a good one. Yeah. I have in the creating, in the job that I'm in, that was a struggle for people because I see very big picture. And I like things, so there was a certain thing that I wanted, and I could see it, how it would work out, but they didn't want to do it that way. Mm-hmm. So I had to keep saying, just trust me, check it out, like we're going to try it. Literally, when we're finishing up this work, the individual said, oh, wow, I should have listened to you, that was really great. I wish we had more of these. It was a survey that would have really, So I think believing in yourself, knowing that you can just push past that, but teach them something helps. Mm-hmm. And it's not that you have to have your own way. You have a really cool vision and they need to join you because it's super fun. I get people with the super fun thing.
I like that.
Yeah. I'm like, you can be against it or you can go have a really good time with me. And they're like, oh, okay, maybe. This might be fun. Yeah. You're familiar with the flow theory? Csikszentmihalyi's flow theory work? OMG. I'm so glad I'm here for anyone watching this. Flow theory is this beautiful space in our brain that a lot of athletes and artists utilize. And probably where you're at, you're in flow.
I love it.
Is it beautiful? Mm-hmm. And you're just there. And everything else just fades out. Have you seen people have a really intense concentration? They're in flow, like their brain is performing optimally where it's happy and where it needs to be. And they flow. And it's a remarkable work. If you've not read it, he has some phenomenal books. But I find that flow really helps too for the brain. I get in a flow theory. Not everyone joins me. Probably like the big creative idea, getting other people to flow. But I utilize it all the time. Even with my own children, they're like, "Mom, are you doing that flow thing on us?" I'm like, never. I never bring in this psychological stuff in our family. That's not true. I get 15 minutes max to talk about anything, and they cut me off. It's really terrible. So I'm excited to be here tonight. But when you have felt most in the flow, fully immersed, do you feel fully immersed or lit up or aligned? Like you mentioned flow. Like when you're in the flow, how does it feel? If you've ever experienced flow theory where you're 110%, does anyone have how do you feel?
They're euphoric.
Yeah.
It's like your brain's on fire and you feel mastery.
Yeah, mastery. It's a good word. Yeah. Does anyone feel like they've been in the flow theory?
Time just goes by so fast.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh wow, I did all that, and I still want to do more.
Yes,
Like I have more energy to do more.
So then that's big. You have more energy more
Mm-hmm.
because you are just in that space. There's nothing else clouding you. Taking any energy, you are focused. Yeah, it's very powerful too. If you've not utilized it, it is really great. Like when I write or I do certain things, I'll get in the flow there. If I'm designing something or a product, or when I was creating, I would just get in the flow. You either got to join me and have fun or not. Like that's it. Like the train is leaving, you're either on board. And most people are like, oh wow, this might be fun. You can do anything if you promise fun and good time.
So while you're in the flow, you had those feelings? Because I think, maybe I've never been in the flow, I don't know. But I think when I'm in it, I feel nothing.
Yeah,
It's
true.
when I finish,
Yeah.
it's like, oh,
Did you
that
feel
was
it?
amazing. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
knocked out this thing,
Yeah.
whatever the thing is, and I did it quickly and efficiently, and I was in my description of, I was in the flow.
You were.
That feels good after it's done, but while I'm in it, there's really nothing
It's like
happening.
the afterburner.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people talk about that afterburner effect. They're in it
Yeah.
and they're so engaged and they're so intense. Like I have an artist friend that just paints random abstract. Same thing.
Right.
Feels nothing, just wham, 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 wham. And then he steps back and goes, whoa. Like he feels all the things. So yeah, it's kind of that afterburner effect. Some people feel it when they're in it. They'll feel very lit or immersed or intense. And some people will feel this emotional and like they're just going to move it forward and do it. But then some people do have that afterburner effect. It's so that wonderful high in the brain celebrating. It's like, yay, I love this. Thank you for not being distracted. And, you know, it's good for the brain. I have a fun entrepreneurship question that I like to ask. And if you have questions for me, you can ask. But if you were going to create a business that was designed specifically for the way your brain works, or those people that are watching, what business would you design that works with the way your brain is wired or works? What would you create? I'm going to give you a few moments for that. I know, it's deep thinking. Shana, you have a business. Would it be what you're doing now, or would it be something different?
I love my business and I think it fits in for that right now. But you talked about like the childhood thing too.
Yeah.
And this is so off the wall.
Oh, but I'm going to love it. I don't love it. Let out.
I have just always had this feeling that I think I bring to businesses that I'm involved in and even my business, but just about doing more for others
Mm-hmm.
in every action. Like almost to the point where the reward is what you're giving. The
That's
reward
nice,
is
yeah.
what you've provided for
Yeah,
others.
you like to give first before receiving.
And so just that, like, that's the requirement. Whatever the business is or whatever the thing is that
give
we're
first.
giving more to others, you know, and
Ah.
whether that's your coworker, your boss, your client, the product, just sharing that energy, and that's what lights me up. And
Yeah.
so just like sharing that energy, yeah,
It's good for your brain, and you feel like your brain feels happy and good when you're doing that, like in a service, like coaching or teaching a class or something. I think those are all areas where I know in the therapeutic setting I felt like I really gave first, and then later I was just moved by something, like the reward came later. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe those in the coaching, teaching, the realms.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I love that. You're kind of doing that. Might even wrap into what you're doing. Yeah. Anyone else have something cool? What kind of business? What would the business look like if it were designed specifically for the way your brain works? Do you have one? I feel like you have one that's really
I
great.
don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm working on a business, and so I feel
Oh.
like what I'm trying to bring in is, for me, it's all about heart connection and bringing
Okay.
that bringing out of myself with the client and itself with what I'm creating. So I
Oh.
guess it's just there's more drive and how to intertwine it, because I'm a painter, so I do cast painting and art painting, and so how to like weave that in, because I feel like somewhat it's separate,
Oh,
Which I
but
feel
it's
like-
intertwining them.
but how to intertwine them.
Oh, I really like that.
Yeah, so.
And you're a painter and you're an artist. I don't know, like that is, so there's a part of you that you probably like the clear, concise, you like to have that job finished and you go and you paint and it's rewarding, and then art is kind of out there. It's like you're merging two different areas. You're probably working, all the various regions of your brain. And how would you merge it? How does that feel?
And I feel like it kind of embodied. Like I don't feel like I always am embodied with my artwork. Kind of like it's kind of mechanical almost
Yeah.
somewhat. I want to
Yeah.
get this detail and this, and so I want to feel like that I can open my heart to it a little bit more.
Oh, I love that.
So that part come out and be shared with others.
And it may be
I don't
like, feel like
always-
it's kind of repressed, from painting, like you go in a room and you gotta mask it off and tape it. It's just very linear, like it's
Yeah.
It is. It's probably like more binary thinking. Like this is what I have to do. Now you're in this space where the brain gets to play and be impish and do these things, but it's probably still wanting to go back to what it was taught.
Yeah, kind of-
You're probably gonna have to make a really bad mess to get it out. This time.
Okay.
Does
Allow
anyone-
information from messages.
You're gonna, and you do. And does anyone have any walls that they don't mind? Like what? Okay, there you go. Just show up and just be like, I am going to show up because I have the emergencies too. It's like, you could tell everybody in your family, I need emergencies too, honey. Yeah, I used to let I had a basement in the buildings that I had, and I used to let anyone that needed to come down and they could paint and just outside the lines. We had huge things of butcher paper. And some people had a really hard time. And it was interesting, someone just color like right in the corner. I'm like, no, you have this huge piece of paper. But we would paint over downstairs. They painted all kinds of things. But you're going to have to set it free. And you'll hear of random, like, a graffiti, and you're like, oh, I think I knew that person was like, setting it free. Like, it's that, not that it's rigid isn't the word I'm trying to use, but, like it's like when you're in accounting and you just like these rules that you live under all the time. It's the brain gets used to that. So when it's art, you're probably feeling that restriction. And being able to share it more is when you let go, people will feel the emotion. And you can probably blend modes. You'll be very creative in how you paint now. Maybe that's emerging in colors and you play them color emotion with. Like, that's cool. It is.
I'm rewiring it.
Yeah, you are. And even like being in here and just thinking you're rewiring. I mean, you're really in a space where you're processing and thinking about things in just a little bit of a different way. And I could go really deep, and when I used to teach as or present it felt too deep, because I'll get really nerdy, and I'll move out there, and it's better to be here in a space where you're letting it flow and free, like you're giving it room, you're giving it air. It's like when you plant something, it needs air. Like our brain, we need air, and we are not meant to be like super tight. Let it be free. Does anyone else have an idea or a business? Oh.
Well, it would be where I could work when I feel more energy. I could be creative at the times where I feel driven to be creative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not be so scheduled.
Oh. And do you feel like your life is scheduled and the work you do is scheduled, or you have? Oh.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Because I would see clients that are scheduled a week or two in advance, and then I have a child.
Oh, that's some scheduling. That's some scheduling.
But I would prefer
to have that.
To just wake up and have asynchronous work
more
than
yeah,
work.
Yeah. And I think those are like those play areas that, I don't know if you've ever heard that term, that you create your own play areas.
My sandbox.
See, I knew you had a play area. Yeah. To give yourself the.
I try to keep Mondays and Fridays.
Oh, good for you.
Sometimes
and
things
those
spill
are
over
kind of,
into it, and that's unfortunate.
And there's a space like where you can be free and you can play. And creating those play areas for your brain are really important. Like sometimes you have random things that you enjoy. I've always had a trampoline. That's my play area. I feel very not young anymore because you get on that thing, you're like, oh God, that's really. We're talking about back, and it's like, but I have my trampoline. I refuse to give it up. That's my play area. When I feel like things are too confining, I'm doing too much, I will literally go do something super fun. Just random. I have a hula hoop. I have like crazy stuff. I just go. It's fun. Or you have a child, or you get around kids and ask them what they want to play, freeze tag, or like anything, and it helps you. Isn't it interesting though with our brains when we talk about wired differently, how the brain really does? It loves to play. Like, why do we play games? Why do we play tricks on people and play jokes? It loves to play. The brain loves to be happy and playing. And we're so darn serious. My gosh, why is life so serious? If I'd have known that when I was a kid, I would just stay. I wanted to Peter Pan. I want to be in that movie and just be like, but life does get so serious when we put so much pressure on ourselves. And we ask so many whys without understanding our own why. What, like Simon Sinek's work, what's our own why? What is your purpose? And you understand that you need that play and creativity. I mean, sometimes you just need to get a box of crayons and color something. You have no idea what you're going to color without any judgment. But allowing the brain the freedom to be where it's at without putting so much darn pressure on it. It's really what's causing, I feel like, a lot of issues in our health, in our mental health. We're stressing too much. We're worrying about too much. And when that's where I've utilized AI even for folks that really have a lot of stress and anxiety. Been using AI as a way for them to monitor it, and they said it's really shocking when they put it in there. Holding people accountable, and ourselves accountable. And when we have things in our life, there were times that I could be very, very serious, and when you're damaged or you have things and you carry them, sometimes it can lend itself to being serious, which is a protective mechanism. We have defense mechanisms. But I realized the more I played and the more I laughed and the more that I did, the better I felt. Like letting it go is super important. And then how do you want your brain to feel? How do you want it to be wired? What do you want to feed it? What do you want? Do you want it to have knowledge? Do you want it to be playful? Like, how do you want your brain to feel? Because your brain is going to represent you. Do you want to feel lighter in your step? Do you want to feel lighter in your day? Do you want to have greater understanding of people? Like, what is it? Do you want to be more creative? I love that you want to merge that. Like, you're tapping into these areas. It's super cool. I'm excited. Yeah. So, anyone else have an idea or business they want to share before? Share, or do you have questions for me? I've answered all your burning questions.
I have a question, not so much for the brain, but you're talking about working with students, and what is the context that what is your work with people? Are you teaching within classroom settings? Is that something you're still doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm still teaching in a classroom setting, and then through the work that I do with the Southern Oregon Innovation Hub, it just translates in there. So all entrepreneurs that I work with, we play with rewiring the brain. And so I do that. And I volunteer, like if people need me. I just had someone reach out. Like I'd love to just share the information and then they can just check in with me. Mm-hmm. My dream is to have a space. I really want to, Albert Ellis is one of my favorite psychologists. He developed rational motive behavioral therapy, but he offered free mental health clinics. And I wouldn't call them that, but he offered these spaces where people could show up, like we're doing now. Mm-hmm. And you could have conversations, but there was no charge. There was no judgment, there was nothing, but you could be in these spaces. So in that, that's really what I want to be able to do, is at least once a month, but to have these real conversations in real spaces where we can talk about these things and we can research them and we can look and we can develop them together. But that's why I teach. That's what keeps me hanging on with teaching. I just cannot let go. I have years of students, they still reach out to me. And just it's something that's really difficult because there's such a high need. And students of all ages. Mm-hmm. Like I have people at all ages that are at the college, and there's such like natural variations in like brain function and cognitive styles. It's just a world that's so fascinating that I don't think people understand that. I think they feel like they have to be, this is where you are. Mm-hmm. They're not understanding there's all these variances in these things, and they don't understand they have these great superpowers that they haven't tapped into. Mm-hmm. And that would be my greatest joy. My purpose, my goal is not to monetize it, but change how the world views mental health. Being an instrumental piece in that to change that and get how we go back out after tonight and we talk about it. To be able to say, oh man, I love what you're doing. I love this. I think it's great. It will shock people when they're struggling, and they're struggling. It shocks them. Like, oh no, it's so annoying. No one likes it. Oh, I love it. I think it's great. Like, how can you maximize that? How can you turn that into something? So multiple stories of years of seeing students create businesses, like 20 some years, and it works. To get them to be in a space, it gives them purpose and agency, what they don't have before. That gives them a purpose of building something outside of themselves instead of worrying about themselves. So yeah, it works really good. But thank you for that. That's a great question. But it took me a long time to get here. It isn't easy, but it's worth it. And then when you do discover, you're like, wow, this is so cool. Like, why didn't I do this sooner? Instead of living all these years, not. Like, we're really incredible. Humans are incredible. I'm still in shock of what we can do. I'm still amazed. And the resilience of the human spirit and the things that we don't tap into even in our own brains, that we could do more. And I'm not going to say mediocre, but I feel like, I don't know if it's life, I don't know what it is, but I think that we get in this space where it's just comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I think that we have to experience some awe, and we have to be uncomfortable. Because the brain, you're comfortable and it's satisfying. You're like, nope, can't do it. Mm-hmm. Learning to be uncomfortable. And I make myself uncomfortable. I have a journal I have 10 things I have to do every year, and they're uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I don't like roller coasters. I scream a lot. No one likes going with me, but every once in a while I make myself go. See if I can reframe my mind. But I've done ridiculous things. You don't even want to know. I want to swim with sharks. Like, I'll do the craziest things where I'm uncomfortable. But because it's good for me. It makes my brain, and it's good for everyone. We just get too complacent and comfortable. Like, I want to go here. I go there every year on vacation. I like have this much time. Do something different, like mix it up. Or go check out a new, check out what's out there in the world. And I feel like with being put in, and I opened with, in a cubicle. We just don't belong in a cubicle, but somehow we get put in a cubicle. You gotta bust out your cubicle. See what it feels like. It's very fun. And people love it. They're fascinated because they've maybe just, you know, been in those snow tracks in their brain and they're doing the same thing. And then you bust out your cubicle and like, hey, what's up with you? Like, what is this? This is cool. I want some of that. And all of a sudden, you know, you start sharing that in the world. But that's my dream, is to just change how we view. And I don't know, I don't really want to call it mental illness. I wish we had another term for it. Wired differently. There are a lot of times you're wired differently. And what a better term to use. And how do we figure that out? On varying levels, like no matter what, you are wired differently. It doesn't come down to anything else when you come down.
Are you teaching anywhere else besides Oregon? Are you doing more virtual classes? Are you doing anything of that nature?
No, I haven't. I want to. I have. I do want to. And I've been asked, and I presented like all over the U.S. Like I'll go and present on this, and I get asked that every time because I have people, friends, and all over, like in Texas. But I should, because I feel like, mainly because it would be really nice to get this information out there.
And then I'm asking questions. I'll just give you a little information. So I'm a vision architect for a huge project that's about an hour from here.
Oh,
That is a potential open source living library for mental health, neurodiverse, all these
Whoa,
characteristics.
that is amazing.
Now, it's not actual yet. However, these are, my dropping in is about program curriculum and different approaches, because we are in the regenerative and augmented stage of not wanting to bring conventionality into it.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm working with a lot of doctors, a lot of scientists.
Oh, wow.
I was given information to come to visit with this lecture tonight. I'm glad I did. But these are potentials of building platforms by being able to work with other like-minded
I love that.
authorities, yes ma'am, that we build and create in open source and living library.
Oh, I love that so
and being
much.
able to change. I talk about the DSM, where hoping to take it up to a political level where we actually can get policy enactment of change.
Yeah.
And so it's also
That's good.
instructional, being able to teach other providers. Okay, so it's
It's a big piece,
Yeah.
and that is a big piece of it, because that is not taught when you go to
yeah.
the
So
program.
just being able to have a network to you as things develop and whatnot, it would be
Yeah,
very
I'd love that. I'd love to
exciting.
hear more. I've tried, I've worked alone at this for a very long time.
Yeah, this
This is difficult.
We're in the era of it has to be in community.
It really
you have
has,
to join
yeah.
hands.
Yeah,
And with that, I would like to also say that I think providing these platforms regionally is really important, but when we're able to take and work with people from all, children and families from all over,
Yeah,
and do
yeah,
these test
yeah.
programs is how we move it out.
It
Okay?
is.
So it's a big project. It's on 1,000 acres. It's incredible.
Oh,
However, we're still in that defining stages and in
Yeah.
fabrication of possession of the property, so on and so forth. But I would like very much to keep in touch with you.
I would love.
And I'm going to need to leave, so I'm
Okay.
going to just
I
leave
would
my
love
name
that.
and
Thank
number.
you. I saw when
Okay?
you when I talked about the DSM-5.
Yeah.
And it's archaic. Our system,
Oh, yeah.
the way it was formed back in the day when it was formed, is archaic, and it has not really modernized. Like I think Martin Seligman was, positive psychology, but when you look, there are very few new theories out there.
Right.
And so if you think about that, is just really scary.
Well,
And as we've evolved,
We pretty much know the world is at its breaking point in all those ways, of agencies and constructs. So it's
Yeah.
the time. I mean, I'm 72 years old, and I've been waiting for this time of the revolutionary. It's like, come on.
And you-
Scrape it. Try it all over again.
but you got to push it. You got to
Yeah,
push.
gotta
Yeah, if you want to
push it.
leave your, I would love that. Leave your. I'm so grateful for you to doing this work, because I
I'm
try.
happy to be here.
Oh, I am so thrilled you are here.
Sorry to have
Yeah. Oh no, we're done.
I'm
We're at time. Do you have a dinger or something? Do you have a clinker? Thank you for being so attentive tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you.